Hey, good afternoon, my fellow subscribers, my fellow YouTubers, my fellow college football fans. I know I'm a little bit late, but it's been a couple weeks now, and it's still so surreal that my beloved Tennessee Volunteers beat the Alabama Crimson Tide for the first time in 15 years. We're now 1-15 against Nick Saban and his Crimson Tide. We're now 2-17 against Saban all time, which is wild. But since we've beaten Alabama, we've played UT Martin, and I don't want to say tore them to shreds. We did in the first half, but we really let off the gas in the second half. We beat them 65-24, which is kind of okay, but it's not all at the same time. That's way too many points to be given up to UT Martin and the Skyhawks. But that's okay. Alabama has turned their tables. They beat Mississippi State last week, so they came off a good rebound. Georgia still dominating the country, and Ohio State is still doing their thing. I don't want to say they're dominating anybody because they haven't really played anybody. They haven't played a single... Well, no, I take that back. They played one. I was going to say they haven't played a single ranked team, but they played Notre Dame in week 1 and barely won that one. And what has Notre Dame done since then? Not really much of anything. Tennessee is now ranked number 3. That's the highest we've been since 1998. We're now 7-0 for the first time since 1998. I don't know if you know this, but 1998 was a really good year for us Tennessee Volunteer fans. What happened that year? I think we went 13-0, 14-0, and won a national championship. Hey, in my honest opinion, this team this year is better than that team. I went back and watched all of those games from 98. There were quite a few that we barely won that we shouldn't have won. And this year, the games we barely won were games we were supposed to lose. So like Alabama, we probably weren't supposed to win that game. LSU, people were writing us off in that game. We dominated that one. And then Pittsburgh, we lost to them last year. So people were probably writing us off in that game, and we beat them in overtime. But yeah, this team is better than the 1998 national championship team, which says a lot because that's a national championship team. That year we didn't have a Heisman candidate. This year, our Heisman candidate is leading, and it's Hendon Hooker. I almost called him Heisman Hooker. Some people call him Hendon Heisman, which would make sense too, especially if he wins, because he's putting on some numbers. But we've got Kentucky this weekend. There's some other big games. Ohio State is traveling to Penn State to play the 13th ranked Penn State Nittany Lions. Penn State really let me down when they played Michigan because I thought it was going to be a better, closer game, but it wasn't. But hopefully they can do something against Ohio State. We'll see there. I'm pretty sure Georgia is on a bye week. I think. Either that or they're playing a nobody. I'm pretty sure it's a bye week though. I bring Georgia up because next week could potentially be, depending on what happens with Ohio State this week and whatnot, it could potentially be a number 1 versus number 2 matchup in Athens, Georgia for the SEC East. If Tennessee walks out of Knoxville this weekend against Kentucky with a win, we'll be 8-0. Georgia will be 8-0 or 7-0. If they've got a bye week this week, I don't remember. Excuse me. But if Ohio State gets beat by Penn State, or if they play like garbage while Tennessee plays great, then Tennessee will move up in the polls to second. And it will probably be a 1 versus 2 matchup in Athens. And it's going to come down to those two teams for the SEC East anyway, especially if Tennessee beats Kentucky this weekend. So, what better way to settle who's more likely going to go to the SEC Championship representing the East than to have a 1 versus 2 matchup in the season? Like, that would be phenomenal. Tennessee's been playing great offense this season. Their defense still needs to work on a lot of things, preferably in the passing game, because we've been torched in the passing game. Like, Alabama threw for a bajillion yards. UT Martin threw for another bajillion yards. And, like, when opposing offenses throw on our defense, it's almost like our defense is full of rookies. Like, they don't really know what to do. They just leave receivers open, leave tight ends open. Throw out to the running back. He gains at least 10 yards before anybody realizes, oh, snap, he could catch the ball. Running game, however, we're good there. We are great. But there is a lot of things that we need to work on defense, especially going against Georgia. Stetson Bennett is another quarterback that can throw. From what I've seen, I think he can run. I'm pretty sure he can. Am I worried about Georgia? Not as much as people would think. Yeah, they're number 1 in the country. They're the reigning national champs. But I haven't been all that impressed with Georgia this season, especially in the Kent State game when they won 23-17 or something like that. And then against Mizzou when they won 26-22. I'm not that impressed. Like, from what I've seen, outside of the Vanderbilt game being a 55-0 win, the most impressive win from Georgia that I've seen was week 1 when they beat Oregon 49-3. That was pretty impressive. I'm pretty sure they've shot out another team, but it was one of those teams that really had no business playing against Georgia, so it was kind of expected. But when you can keep a ranked Oregon team to just scoring 3 points and you score 49, that's impressive. But that was week 1. Everything since week 1 has changed. We are in week 9. Week 9. And I'm not that impressed with the Bulldogs. Am I saying that Tennessee's going to go to Athens and just dominate and win? No, by no means am I saying that. So if you're watching this and you're a Georgia fan, please don't tear me up in the comments because I'm not saying that. Everybody keeps asking me if I think we can beat Georgia. I said, yeah, anybody can win on any given Saturday. Am I going to say Tennessee's going to beat Georgia? No, I won't say that until Tennessee does beat Georgia. It's as simple as that. Because I didn't think we were going to beat Alabama and then we beat them. And I was like, oh, well, I mean, I guess we beat Alabama. But I didn't say that before the game. I didn't say we were going to beat them. I didn't say we were going to win. I said we have a better chance if Bryce Young didn't play. But I'm really glad he did, because as a Tennessee fan, I can say that we beat Alabama with their starting quarterback in. Now, of course, the Alabama fans are all like, yeah, but the refs were all on Tennessee's side. They threw all those penalties. No, the refs were not paid. They were not on our side. Alabama just committed a lot of penalties, and it helped us out. But there were missed calls on both sides for both teams. So you can't sit here and tell me that the refs were in Tennessee's back pocket, because they weren't. They reviewed a targeting call, which I agree was close. It was close. The rules analyst, I don't remember his name, but he even said that it was close, but he did, in fact, turn his head to avoid head-to-head contact. He still hit the face mask, but the face mask sticks out 12 yards. It's like way out here. But he did hit Bryce Young in the head with his shoulder. I think that was just accidental contact. It was a football move, and nobody was hurt. It just looked rough because Bryce Young fell into his own player. So I don't want to hear that the refs were on Tennessee's side. I don't want to hear that they were in our back pocket. I don't want to hear any of that because penalties were called on both sides. Penalties were missed on both sides. Everything was good. Now, was there a pass interference call that I don't agree with being against Tennessee? Absolutely. The one in the end zone where they said that our defender pulled the Bama receiver was wrong because when you watched the replay, it was the opposite way around. The Bama player pulled our guy, but it's all right. I don't think any of those penalties would have really made a huge difference in the game. So I'm glad Alabama was able to play Bryce Young because they don't have that excuse of, oh, well, you beat Alabama with a backup quarterback. Yeah, but look what Georgia's doing with their backup quarterback. Stetson Bennett is a backup quarterback. Yeah, he's a starter this year, but he wasn't the starter last year. He was the backup and proved his worth. And until he shows me any other reason, he's a backup quarterback. He's I don't know. It's really hard to explain. I'm not hating or anything, but Stetson Bennett is a good backup. He's a good starter. He's been starting all season. So, yeah. I'm not going to say Tennessee's going to beat Georgia next week until we beat Georgia. But I'm not going to say Georgia's going to beat Tennessee until Georgia beats Tennessee. It's going to be a heck of a game. It's going to be a heck of a game just like the Tennessee-Bama game was. As long as it's not a blowout, I'm going to be okay with a loss. Because before the season, I went through the Tennessee schedule, and I was predicting wins and losses, and I said that we were going to go 10-2 with losses to Alabama. Oh, hold on, before I say that. I said we were going to go 10-2, maybe 9-3. For 10-2, it was going to be losses to Alabama and Georgia. For the 9-3, I said we were going to lose to LSU because that's been an Achilles heel of the Volunteers for years. I'm really glad we jumped over that hurdle. I'm really glad we jumped over the Alabama hurdle because that's a big one. That's a big hurdle. I mean, we've beaten Florida, we've beaten LSU, and we beat Alabama. Keep that in mind. Those are teams that we've had issues with for a long time, especially Florida and Alabama. LSU, they somehow pull something out of their rear ends and walk out of wherever we play them with a dub. It's crazy how that works. Yeah. Kentucky is playing decent. They've got a couple losses that I feel like shouldn't be losses. One of those was South Carolina. South Carolina is doing better than I anticipated. I predicted them to go 6-6, and I'm pretty sure they've already got 6 wins. And they've got a couple games left that they are more than likely going to win. I don't see them beating Tennessee at the end of the season. I don't see them beating Clemson, but I do see them winning their next 2 games at least. Tennessee and Clemson are going to be their real test with the remainder of their schedule. Especially Clemson, because it's Clemson, it's the rivalry game. I mean, Tennessee's a rivalry game too, but it's not as big as Clemson. But we'll see how that goes. Florida, they got Georgia. Oh, that's right. Georgia's not on a bye week. They've got Florida this weekend. It's the annual Florida-Georgia game in Jacksonville, Florida. Which, tell me how that makes sense. It's a neutral site, but it's in Florida. How do you get a neutral site game with 2 teams in the city of Jacksonville, Florida, when one of those teams plays in Florida? That's an every year home game for Florida, if you ask me. The Gators play in Gainesville, Florida. The Bulldogs play in Athens, Georgia. It should be somewhere that's not in either one of those 2 states. But hey, what do I know? I'm just a college football fan. I don't know. Yeah, we'll see how that one goes. I'm predicting a Georgia blowout. And I'm not going to say shutout because I don't think they've ever shut Florida out ever. If they have, it's been a while and I don't remember those years, or it was before my time. But I'm going to call it a Georgia blowout on the Florida Gators this weekend. I've already talked about Ohio State and Penn State. That's Ohio State's game this week. I don't know if Penn State will be able to beat the Buckeyes. I hope they do, because I'm probably one of the biggest Ohio State haters ever, because I just don't think they earned their place in the playoffs like some people think they do. They're out there with Notre Dame and me, except they don't get blown out in the first round. So But yeah, I hope Penn State can win. I don't think they will, but we'll see. And then obviously Tennessee playing Kentucky at home this week. I'm going to go with a Tennessee blowout, but I believe it could also be a close game. Kentucky seems to be one of those teams that just plays hard against Tennessee and they still find a way to lose. So we'll see how that goes. I think we'll win. I'm like 92% confident that we will beat Kentucky, especially with these sick uniforms that we're bringing. You know, Tennessee is wearing a black helmet for the first time in school history. For the first time in school history, they're wearing a black helmet. And it looks pretty sick. The way the orange tee and the orange stripe pop from the helmet is incredible. If you haven't seen it, it's in my profile picture. It's pretty sick. And I'm wanting to know how University of Tennessee athletic director is going to incorporate the fans in this, because they're wearing all black uniforms with the black helmets and all that. I want to know if they're going to do like a checker kneeling with orange and black, or if they're going to do a checker kneeling with orange and white, which I hope they don't, because that would not make sense. Or if they're just going to do a full-on blackout where the fans just wear black, because that would make Neyland super intimidating. I mean, it's already intimidating as it is because it's one of the loudest stadiums in the country. Not the loudest, but it's one of the loudest. And if you put all the hyped up fans that we've got this year because we're doing so great, if you put them in black with the football team in black against one of our biggest rivals, man, that's going to be an environment to experience. I wish I could. I would love to experience that type of environment, but it's going to be crazy. I mean, Josh Heupel already said that the environment for the Florida game was crazy, and then he said it again for the Alabama game. But this is just Kentucky, and we're 7-0. People are going to be fired up. They're going to be fired up. They're going to be rowdy. They're going to be crazy. People are going to be losing their minds. I wouldn't be surprised if people get arrested for something, because it's probably going to happen. When you get that many fans that hate the other fan base and the other team as much as Tennessee hates Kentucky, something bad is probably going to happen. As much as I don't want it to, it probably will. As long as we don't throw mustard bottles and golf balls at Kentucky like we did Ole Miss last year. But that's all I'm going to discuss right now. I might, if I can remember to do a video after this week, I'll be back on. I'm going to be honest, I'm terrible. I'm terrible at YouTube videos. I don't even know why I do this. I do this because I love college football to death. I'm a huge college football fan, and I love making videos about the week-to-week games that are happening, and I love talking about my Tennessee Volunteers when they're doing great. I love talking about them when they're doing bad. I'm just an all-around college football fan, and I love making videos for you guys. I don't know how many of them are watched, and I don't know how many views I get, but that's okay. That's okay. Maybe one day I'll have a bunch of people subscribing to me, and maybe I'll earn the respect of other YouTubers. Right now, I'm still trying to get my feet wet. But yeah, all you need to know is Georgia's number 1. They're playing Florida this week. Ohio State's number 2. They're playing Penn State this week. And then Tennessee is number 3, playing Kentucky in a big game. All right, that's it. I'll see y'all next week. Peace out.